And I hope you're okay. Today we are going to cover up every time we lost so that we can catch up. And we are going to have a long session. In this long session, I would like to highlight some of the things that we might have skipped in class 3 and then class 4 and 5 so that by the end of this we are done with module 1, and those will be two modules. Module 0 and module 1 will be done. And today I'm going to go deeper into CSS beyond where we were last, and then after that I'll progress to Bootstrap, introduce you to Bootstrap. So let us first have a recap of some of the last things that we did the last time we were together. We were able to create a page in which someone was able to have results, live commentary between a game. And on that page, we saw aspects like we saw aspects in CSS like linking to a remote OCDN link within the head section, and the CDN we were referring to in this particular case were Google Fonts. And I told you that you would get these Google Fonts online. Other things that we got to see were CSS in the last two classes, where I say that when you're doing styling, you start from the bigger picture, moving down to the specifics of your CSS. In specificity, there are so many ways in which you can style your HTML document, starting with writing a separate CSS file and adding each and everything that we have in here. And this will get to be referenced into your code by saying that the rel is a style sheet. Then the second one is to add your CSS within the style section. Now this means that this styling will specifically work for this particular HTML page. The disadvantage of this is that you cannot reuse this styling unless you keep on doing it on each and every new page that you create in HTML. Then the third one is inline styling. Now, going deeper into ways we identify the different items of our HTML to be highlighted, we spoke about this. I hope you understand what it is. Then calling the entire body, and then calling onto a class or a div with a hashtag. And we said we mostly recommend giving them classes. We said you can have more than one class styled like that by giving a class to two classes. And we call that bundled class styling. So we looked at so many kind of ways in which we get to style things through things like grid template columns, yes, font sizes, borders, the different borders that we looked at, border bottom, border top. We looked at padding. We looked at text aligning. We looked at font family, and also talking of padding. We looked at different padding to the bottom, padding to the top, etc. We looked at animations in CSS, where I talked about creating a new function in CSS, and you can name it something like you would say sliding, as we see here. Then you get to attach um, that function that you've created in CSS onto some CSS logic. For example, saying that from, so we are trying to drag something from here to there, or transforming, looking at things like opacity, etc. So these things that we did are most of the things that you would need to come up with a good CSS at a basic level. I said that to oh, we even looked at WebKit, and I said as a web programmer in front end, you would be dealing a lot with WebKit. So I said that everything in here is just the rough surface of each and everything that you would need in of each and everything that you would need while carrying on things to do with styling. The other things go all the way down to your own creativity, the image you have in your head, and your own infrastructure, not infrastructure, but your own plan. And that plan is what brings out the best out of you. Now, that is CSS. Of course, there is still a lot more we are going to learn in CSS today. Then, from there, if I'm to check my notes here, some of the things that we still have to do is we shall talk about things that we might have left out in day three. I see in day three we're supposed to use justify content and align items correctly. We aligned, but we've not used that much of justify. So we shall look at that. Then we need to build a responsive navigation bar using Flexbox. I think we did that. But we shall go deeper into that today as well. We shall implement wrapping Flex children to their responsive card grids. We shall apply the Flex grow, the Flex shrink, and then the Flex basis to control item sizing. And then we shall build a match card for Flexbox on top of what we've already built. Now that's what we were supposed to do in day three. Another thing that I've checked that we might have left in day four, because these days I was just going more practical, not following my notes that I'm sharing with you. In day four, we're supposed to define grid tracks using FR, Minimax, Auto, and fixed units. We shall look at that. We need to place grid items precisely using grid columns and grid rows. I think we've done grid columns and I described to you grid rows. When we're looking at these different entries of commentary uh, on our commentary page, we are supposed to use named template areas for readable 2D layouts. We've already done that, but we shall review it again. We need to learn how to combine grid flexbox appropriately in one layout. Grid flexbox in one layout. Grid flexbox in one layout. Okay, we shall look at that. And then we've already done the building of SportsCop main layout using CSS Grid. So we've already looked at that. And then in day five, which we've not touched at all, I'll fully introduce you to um, I'll fully introduce you to Bootstrap. The current Bootstrap version is Bootstrap 5. So we shall look at its grid system and all breakpoint classes. Now, this is where classes of Bootstrap are very important and programmable. We shall implement Bootstrap components for. Now here comes the problem. My laptop has shut down. But I was saying Bootstrap. We shall ensure that we are able to build the different grids and the different classes that are assigned to um, Bootstrap so that we can transform our web page with what is really functional for it. Now, it's important to note that Bootstrap is a front end framework, totally in HTML, because it has its own rules, though not so different from pure HTML, but its classes, and these classes have call, like you would say, call X4, call X5, which is your own picture. So when we are going to use Bootstrap 5, you cannot collectively understand everything in Bootstrap 5 within a day, but you can understand each and everything that is basic about Bootstrap in an hour. And then it takes you practice to get a little much deeper into Bootstrap 5. That's why I would recommend you to go deeper into Bootstrap, because you will find Bootstrap in front end developments in literally every language. If you can recall, when we're still looking at Vue.js, we used to use Bootstrap. Bootstrap is used in Next.js for people who are building serverless web applications, etc. Bootstrap is one of the most important things that has ever happened to front-end development. It's just like Tailwind CSS. So Bootstrap shouldn't be something that you should just look at um, a surface level for this very class, but going a little deeper to investigate it and ensure that you understand it at depth, and then find ways of merging Bootstrap classes with this generic way of editing the different elements in your HTML. One thing, though, that was not part of the things we were supposed to study the previous time was JavaScript. So JavaScript that we looked at last time was supposed to come into the next module, and it feels like I've already given you a hint of what is coming. The only reason that's why I brought in JavaScript the previous time was to ensure that I give some life to our web application. This shows you how important JavaScript is to front-end developers as much as CSS is. Some of the things that we shall look, some of the things that we looked at in JavaScript was we were able to understand the syntax. You get to have, I don't know whether you did the logic that I told you last time, but I would understand because we've been totally disconnected on this program or class. But there was an issue with this web page where I told you that I wanted you to use the little skills you have in JavaScript. I will not call them little, to ensure that every single time an entry comes in, it matches exactly the ticker time on the scoreboard. Though, away from that, what we were able to do was we were able to understand the if functions. Like you'd see, if a minute is less than 90, then let's have an incremental. We're able to identify how to get an element within our HTML by its ID. We're able to look at how to declare constants in JavaScript. We're able to know how we're able to see the while loop, if I recall very well, yes, etc, etc, etc. So I'm sorry, ideally where we've reached is almost everything that you need to have the foundations of front-end web development. And moving forward is trying to perfect that foundation. And this foundation is going to be very important to us moving on to our back-end implementation, moving on to creation of our APIs, moving on to integration of external APIs. We shall be loitering all around how the front end receives this and how it displays or retrieves data from the front end. So in case you have any questions from front-end development, it's always important to ask me questions because this will help us to be on the same page at every singular point. So as usual, um, let's get started with those things practically. Unfortunately, my computer is shut down, so I'm going to need to restart it here. Then after restarting it, I'll go through the notes as we do the practical implementation of what is in the notes. And after this class, I'll share both of all these three lecture notes and then the coursework. Then the next time we ever have a class, we shall move directly to coursework. So just give me about 5 to 10 minutes, then we'll get started with the practical. So Nasim, you've come in time. Prior to you coming, I was doing some little things to get my notes ready so that we can start a practical, and you'll get the other details of what I've been discussing of in the recording. But I've said I'm going to cover some few things in CSS that we had left in day 2 and day 3. Then I'll look at Bootstrap in day 5, and that will be the close of our module 1. That means we would have covered module 0 and 1, and then we shall move on to module 2. So please hold on the line as I look for my notes. All right. So let's get started. So we are going to proceed with CSS first. And according to notes, I'm sorry, I'm not going to share all screens because I don't want to overwhelm this computer. In day 3, we are going to look at navbar rebuild, but this time around, our navbar is going to be rebuilt using Flexbox layout. The navbar that we had previous time was exactly like this. So this was our navbar, very beautiful indeed. But the first thing that we're going to do is to ensure that that navbar uses Flexbox. Then the next thing we are going to do is we are going to see if we can justify content. I don't think we did justification the previous time. And then align items to the center, then add a stats bar so that we can illustrate. We're going to illustrate flex wrap, borderline. And then, all right, let's start with day three. All that is fine. Let's start with day five. So when we come back to our code right here, we are going to add new variables to the root. Before you came in, I was emphasizing that when you're styling, you start with the bigger picture, moving all the way down to the smaller picture. So there is, you should not go into cocktail all these three classes into one compressed added file. So the first thing that we need is Bootstrap, adding Bootstrap. There are so many ways of adding Bootstrap to your project. The first one is using Composer. And I talked of Composer the previous time. So if you're going to do that, you would say, if you don't know the exact Composer, add Bootstrap. And then you would use this. However, as for me, I'm going to use Composer through the what? I'm going to use Composer through what we call a CDN, for just like we had for for the fonts. I would come here and I say uh, link to add Bootstrap 5 to HTML. They'll give me the exact link to Bootstrap via. So this is it. So this is exactly, is it min.js? Cool, cool. It's okay. I'll take on this and then I get to add it right here. So it's trying to get JS deliver.net, which is a style sheet, and that is its integrity. Perfect. Now, JavaScript Bootstrap has its own classes. So some of the Bootstrap classes that we can use in the root. The first one, I don't know whether Bootstrap has already synced, but the first class that we do have in Bootstrap is background class. Yep. So we can say dash dash bootstrap, which BS stands for bootstrap. Then we say dash primary. Let us add JavaScript as well. Let's add JavaScript as well to the head section. So I'm going to hit tab and then that. So this is trying to tell Bootstrap that the primary color of the website should be something that we've used earlier. So I can go with this. Which is reddish. And again, BS primary. RGB, which stands for red, green, blue, should be. So the primary color palette should be on the red scale 232, on the green scale 22, and the blue scale should be 43. Is that Mr. D? Minute. Just a minute. Fine. Terminate. Then the next thing we're going to do is we can define the border radius ahead of time by saying BS, then border, then radius being 6 pixels. Now this person is going to call this bringing a printer and sending over chat. So that's all for the root. What else do we have? What else do we have? So we just need to create new classes within this. And these new classes are particularly meant to introduce our new changes to this. So we shall get started. Let us start from the top all the way to bottom, looking at places we can adjust with Bootstrap, etc. We start, instead of using layout, we can change this to app layout, which is also still generic, but it would help us to benefit from the other flexing capabilities that I was talking of earlier. Then the nav, we earlier had class which is panel, in which we had edge class. This has to really change, really change. But you know what? The best thing we can do now is to create something a little separate from this, and then we give it everything we need. Let's create something different here. A new file, and let's call this file commentary dot that. Instead of destroying the previous one. So that's the main one. Here we shall have the head. And here is where everything else goes. And under the head, we start with meta, where we can say meta, and then we declare that to be UTF-8. Then secondly, we shall have another meta which is meant to do screen resizing, different screens to be supported. So we can say equals to viewport, and then we say our content is going to be width, giving us width should give us, I don't know whether this makes sense. Device width, and then can say comma, then let the initial scale be 1.0. Now this is an addition to what we had here. What we had here was initially we said, oh, it's what we had. Okay. So we can just copy this instead of repetitions. We copy our style sheets. And next time we get to use them here. Perfect. Just perfect. So somewhere we shall have our script styles going in here. So I was saying the very first div will be app layout because we want a full layout of literally everything. So I'll create our first one there. A minute. Hello? A minute. Hello? Hello? Yes, please. Sorry. We're going to have this in which we are going to contain everything in our application. We're going to use totally different words. Here we can use singles, and then here we can use Marets. Let's use the exact formal ones. It's fine. So this one, just a minute. So this one is going to have this class that we're calling app layout. We are rebuilding. Be careful. So everything is going to be under app layout. Under app layout, we shall start by adding. So by bringing app layout, my main objective is to see that we can create a grid where the layout is the CSS grid that the root container has. And all direct children of this grid in our CSS will sort of be under this. So we're trying to contain each and everything under this huge container so that it's not HTML that scatters everywhere. It's contained under app layout to bring in what we're supposed to learn in class 3. So inside it, we shall start with the navigation bar. Let's say nav. And inside this div, I'll add a class and I'll call this a bootstrap class called primary nav. Sorry, primary nav. So please take note of these classes. I believe they are very important. So under this, let's go back to our HTML. In the previous class, so for us, we had previously used the header This time around, we've introduced the div, I've placed everything, and the first thing was the logo. So we shall say, under primary nav, we shall have a div for logo. So let us have a div, and under this div, we shall call it uh, scope, spot scope. So let us call it spot scope. But this div has a class. No. Divs often, let's use ID. It has an ID of logo. And as you can see here, we had this beautiful styling where sport was a different color and scope was a different color. So we can get to find out how we can mix these two using what we call span. So we can span scope. We can add our span here, and then scope gets to sit right in between of it, right there. So that's our logo. Then the second thing that was in the header was the button that would say live. We are going to move away from that because based on what we saw on FortMob, if I'm to take you there, was something like this, FortMob.com. When we were in FortMob, we had menu items, and that's the industry standard of how things are done. Rich, voice note, you might need a phone. So to achieve that, Rich, okay. So don't worry. So the other things that we are going to add within our primary nav will be our nav links. Now, most times when you have nav links, these are often either tables or lists. But I wouldn't recommend you to use a table because table properties might overlap with your styling for the header, and then you get to mess up everything of the navigation bar. So here you can use lists as the best alternative. There are two types of lists in HTML. The first one is ordered list, which is represented by OL. And then the second one is non-ordered list, which is represented by UL. Ordered list is ordered list is when you are ordering you're listing down your stuff in HTML in an ordered manner. For example, 1, 2, 3, 4 with your items following. Whereas an ordered list could be bullet points, no points at all, check mark lists, etc. So often we use an unordered list, which is UL, which means unordered list. And under this unordered list, we are going to list the different things that we'd like to be on our website by listing what we call list items. So, and any list inside it, it should have list items. I hope you can see how we are bringing out this thing, scattering it in a way of building it from scratch. So an order list have lists. If you had a table, I'll put it somewhere here. Why do we have two bodies? Okay. I think we could be writing our code in the head section. I don't know what's going on. This is the head tense here. Then between the head and body, everything here is supposed to be under body. I'm sorry. Everything here must be under body. So what have I missed out? Up layout, and under up layout, we're still in the navigation bar. Yeah. So I was saying, if it's table, then you must highlight that this is a table, and a table. I'm just giving you an illustration. I'm going to delete this. It's not part of our code. Every table in HTML has table rows and each table row has its data. So you say table data for that row, table data for that row, and then this table data will define the columns of that table. So you can have here something like XXXX. Then here you have another table data, which is something like YYYYY. And then from this, you create another row, which is TR, but all this is under table. So under here, we add table data, which is MMMM. And these table rows will get defined how many columns we do have. So if we are to run this commentary page, if we are to run it in the browser, it will most likely look, are they calling? It would most likely look like this. I don't know why then. Perfect. So due to the different rows that we have in our HTML, we end up with the different columns that are needed. You don't need to tell HTML the columns that you need for it to create them. It goes all the way down to how many rows and how many table data. So each table data you add under a row determines the columns that it needs to be accommodated. And we shall look more into that when we come to Bootstrap and its table properties. So our first list item, I'm back to lists. Our first list item is going to be live. We had something like that called live, and a button here. I can copy that button from our previous page, I think. Perfect. Copy, and then we'll use it in, because I don't have it on my keyboard. And then the second list item can be anything like links. We can have another one called uh, players. Then we can have another one we're going to call results. Results. Yeah, that looks good. So this unordered list, we can give it a class that will help us in properly styling it by saying we can say that our class is navlinks. Navlinks is another very popular one that you would use in your front end development. Now these list items are just lists until we do something special, and that something special is simply giving them an href. Href links it to something, and when you don't want anything to go to any page, then you can create an href that leads to that very page, but without any identified ID of that HTML element will just not take someone anywhere. That's good for illustration purposes. A minute. We bypass Elite High School because your location is where it is there. Just a minute, I'm going to get back to this. Hello. Because that road until you find the very end of the upright road, and then you turn to your right. You'll find a school called Jolis Academy. Yes, please. So you can follow that map that I sent you on WhatsApp. All right. So I'm going to pause this for a minute, then I'll get back to you in a bit. Okay, I'm tired of this shit.
abantu abali ku airite bwebanone so abakyali ku airite
Yes.
nsitambulya abatasomye nsema kusoma
wait, we can proceed with some other stuff. We're still under primary nav. Other things that we can do in primary nav is illustrating things to do in CSS with flex force, flex shrink, and stuff like that that was meant to be covered in day 3. We can do that by creating another div nested inside this one. And inside this div, we can add some key main actions that are often on each and every website, like we've seen on Fortmob, such as logging in and signing up. So to do this, we shall add div and then give this a class. This class, we can call it anything like nav actions. And under this, we can create another div inside it, which is a div nested within a div nested within a div, and we can call it live. Now, since the other one was live, we can take this to be a page, whereas this is the button to show that we are actually live, because these are action buttons. And after this, we can illustrate what we say an A tag, in which means that we are going to be linking to something here, and we can call this login. This should take us literally nowhere. href equals to a hash element, and then we give it a bootstrap class. So the second bootstrap class that I'm going to, the third action that I'm going to introduce to you to is what we call button. So by button in Bootstrap, we just use btn. And since we can have more than one class like we saw in the previous subsequent classes, we have a button called button ghost. This is a unique class in Bootstrap that ensures that that button is sort of ghost in nature. And then away from this, we shall have something similar to this. We shall have something similar that we are going to call sign up. Just a minute. Okay. And has he already paid for this? Has he paid for this?
Hey,
Mm.
yeah, it is stuck.
What do you want? You want to break that? And then like,
Is that it?
no.
Sure. The equipment is very sharp.
Yeah, she has come on board. No? So, send to stay mobile money. Should we put the money in mobile?
It is okay. You put with your charges.
The little charges, it's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we can put it on her number.
Asa.
How much is the total? It's 350. With
We don't withdraw. Yeah, I thought it's asking.
you know, he said it's 355 plus withdraw. He's sending 355 plus withdraw.
We can't tell with grade.
Yeah, it is. And please, what's her name now? I'm giving her the phone.
Thank you. And
Hey.
I'll give you everything. Zero. 4, 5, 6, 1, 6, 1, and 6, 4, 7. Brings me where it gets read. Yeah, if I go, we remove it. Okay. Is that?
It's not the same.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to send you the details. Is it what are you doing?
Which one? Yeah. Is it red green? Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you so much. Let me check. Yeah, see. All right. Okay. Yeah, finished.
Just a
Topic. This one is
It likes praying.
What do you want to
It's yours, it's cute.
okay. You want to buy You want to buy
That's cool.
So please come and tell me what happens next. I'm requesting to let me know what happens next.
What happens?
I've added this now. I'm asking where this stationery goes.
Do I know? As soon as this sent me,
Does it need
Happy?
special software?
Let me call this one.
Happy? Happy? You want to eat my produce? What is this? What is this? A bit dirty of yours. Sit. Sit there. Sit. Sit. Sit or I'll beat you.
Hello? If I score for you and Airtel, right? Then how minutes? That thing,
I
I
think it's
think, I
like
think it was inside.
I think that one is
The
it's
most
normal printers that they used to use.
Yeah, I just want to know next stationery. So
Open.
you just
Perhaps
press
you
it.
need to place it like this.
what I think was inside, but I don't know.
But you see,
There is this, and then there was this.
how is this too?
I'm asking you before I can. First things first is this feature, yes, it does. It's an error because it's not reading the stationery, and then lastly, Gority, with me,
Okay,
you need to first pull this. It's not.
I put it because
Take this one.
What is the phone?
What is this?
Yeah.
yeah, here.
Oh, there, I'm here.
Yeah, it's cool. This man wants to talk to you. It has shut down. So this one, you have minutes on this?
Okay, I was asking about two questions. The first one is how to place this round stationery to the printer, and the second one, if we need any special software to print our, if we need any special software to print our QR codes on the stickers. Okay. So we go back to the first question, which is how to place this round stationery into this thing. The money is in Korean Chinese. The money is in Chinese.
But you can still do it.
Okay. Okay, thanks for the help. Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you.
All right.
And then I'll go down for the clothes.
Thank you for the help. All right. Thank you very much.
It's done.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
That's again.
All right.
Yeah, so of the guy.
Era enkola nga
What was that again?
twalonze n'ebintu.
I'm just trying to figure out. So not a bit. I don't know. It's just seeming of all the education.
Kaffe kyalakiranga ekituuka mu kituuka bulinga obwa supermarket.
Then you go all around the
I think on why no bow color. Why is this? This one has this and then it's in color.
So again, I'm sorry, I feel like I am a time. You will take on. What? I feel like I'm waiting. Yes, I believe.
Efuluma olaba n'akaffe wali okaddala bw'okitekamu oteekamu bw'okibala kazigana jjukira ovenalizaako panel okitegeeza
Of course. So I can do the class. We'll get started.
kati kuna agenda pozinga kirasi
Yeah, functionality. I'm going live on YouTube. I think stop. Please test.
So, honestly, you're not getting to put out there.
eri rooli emu mpanvu tugikutula timale manyi olowooza nti oba ebiziba nyingi ebimu nga mpanvu eriko busitiika oba 10. Empapula bano bino gy'osetinze app bona engeri gy'aladdemu empapula. Ataddemu kano akanyweza nno naye akake kali ku sayidi emu. Then ye alina akaginyweza.
That means there's something. All this is fine. Then around. That's all. What is the latest one? How do I get what do you say, dear?
Awangala baraka.
Read waliwo bwetulabye bw'ataano kano kantala 3
Kati baraka bimufa tukibawamu.
simanyi kakangezeko
Ngoga bugumu mwana kusa omwana wange egguli ate nga kakola non-stop.
kangezeeko okufuna wano kyemprintingirako. Printer.
Tonyezeo.
Okay. Tulabe. Naye kati ofuna template eri yennyini agendako nga buno obulaba. Yafuna ki? Gyafuna ki?
Era kalina backup software owaka.
Of course, ni just ya kufuna ki nga nfunye ebintu byemu byemprinting. Nfunye kyemprinting kankiconverting to PDF. Ekibadde format ki? Kyonga nfuna engeri gye tukintegrate nga P7B. Python, nze ndowooza Python. Medicine. D8 no kaakano kali compressed. Kati kyogamba keekano kansookenga clicking siki kikyendownload nze kiraze. It's a barcode illustration isolated dot. Downloads compressed barcode isolated extract here. PSD yakyo kituufu yeetaaga software. Iyo barcode ngifunye eri PNG kangiconverting to PDF. So njagamba PNG to ekyagamba online awo. Ekyagamba online. PNG to PDF. That means the language so tukakase. I hate being a tester. What teaching to put the one compressed. Compressed Tugikwata ne tugiprinting. Download. Start downloading. Open with Microsoft Edge. Okay. So ndagamba control print. Ekyasoma HP laser. Microsoft print PDF. Kati nina ku adding eno printer drivers. Add printer. Ne computer yes printers. Soma printer nga X printer. Kaneewereza eno PDF to on WhatsApp.
Nongera akola biki?
Ategeeza sinki eri ewaka. Ndowooza ngirabako. Under documents. Bagiyita bagiyita 918 document. 918 open. Those are dimensions. You know, back when you do this. Configuring your printer. Ekola ki?
Mumanyi kasita ekyo kigamba
Ng'ekiruma. Okukiruma
oba
kitegeeza.
otaddeyo
Bw'ekiruma kye kiddako efa. Kati wano bajja kwetaaga okugula driver zaayo PC ezintu they'll choose driver. Select printer from database. PPD ngirabye egiddemu mu zip file. Era ndowooza zaamu what the fuck is this? Kumbe ky'amakulu. Pressed PS. Nene badde PSD. Wano bagamba PPD.
HP design jet. Choose driver. Go. Select printer from database. What is make and model? Welcome back, Abishai. How are you? Is that how they greet in English? What's wrong with this?
That's issue.
But where's my drive?
Unfortunately, due to my brokenness, they were not able to deliver it.
No.
I'm not lying.
That one,
Take it.
Do you know that that thing has messed up this work? Your father's work.
Abishai is home.
Take it.
You don't want to answer Abishai.
I want. Baraka promised me you cancel it by yourself and you're saying that you're broke.
Cancel. It was some money was missing,
Yeah.
and the guy refused to deliver. He said transport was too much. He said he's not delivering. He called in the morning today. So Baraka has to look for that money and add so that they bring.
Please give me back that flash.
No.
I really need it.
No.
And that's my work, Abishai. You even want to take it when your friend's work is there.
Baraka promised and I'm not going to forgive.
I'm sorry.
The guy called and Baraka didn't have the transport. So you wait. Yes, you can wait. When Baraka gets transport, then hands up. Yes. You don't get mad now, eh? Akshay, you've gone. You've gone home. Alone. Can you hear me? Okay. Everyone is home. Abishai, and Asahel.
Where's Miguel?
Miguel has also gone that side.
Yes, Miguel is here.
But you've taken my flash.
It is here. When you back gets transport, I'll tell you.
XP. Ono just ebyesizeewo ekintu kimu kigambo kiri Xprinter XP search.
Papi, come. Where you go? What now? Well, I do something.
Olina ogifunira driver. Olina ogifunira drivers ezigikolamu. Ate eno ye laptop egenda ekola wali eri ku entrance. Bawano baateekayo. Egendamu aba driver ki? Experience. Ate eno oba efaanana ki?
Nsobola ogenda wano okiddamusi.
Just funafune katebe ntuule. Erina ekidde ekimu. Kasooke mudde mu moment getting its drivers.
X4 thermal printer. Model Dynamics printer. Model X420B. This is 370.
Password yange neeri.
Your password. So for password video. Password here is 7BFB0448 system deal. Yeah. 7BFB.
08.
7BFB0448. Video 4-inch label barcode.
Stationaries. Kaja no iteka uzi. Iteka nchi.
Office supplies.
Office expenses. Asatu moja tano Mungu mitano. Explode.
Just take a move backward. Print.
kituufu kati eno kye bataakiwadde ongezeeko gifuula full size naye oba nakyetegere express delivery 2019 express delivery 2019 here's the re.x Sigala babitunda Sigala driver wizard complete. Notification is energy job. Drivers by Sigala. Download latest version. Perfect. So, in a link you can use it for computer. Control X. Control V. In the meantime, continue. Sometimes brands model bagiyise XP 370. So 256 37 310 37 320 330 340 370B. XP 370B. No taking, no downloading. So that means okuva leero nigerayagala kutayagala tugenda kukozesa because nkwaya kyakikubange yange yasupportinga Windows eno ekola ku Windows the drivers Simkanika printing a documents is effective.
byonna.
Sente za Joseph okuvaawo.
Kiba naye tutaddeyo olagala Excel. Windows we support line.
Transaction erina jjo obwasinga
Lwaki?
neya Jose.
Lwaki?
Deputy Note naye nakulaya amount yonna mulizo kyonna
Yagiclosing. Tadde yagiclosing.
nedda jjukira bibyo twagula nga tukola amount yonna.
Olegamu oteramu zonna ezize.
Biri bye nali nkubuuza nti Deputy Note
Anti nkitegedde oli oyagala muteresa yinena then byetema automatically. Tosobola giclosinga. The best thing not to do is
you can reverse it.
yes, reversing is one thing, but there's a second option whereby zino eno ezimubanjibwa azisasula nadda ku zero.
Oh,
Mr. Abdai nenge gyakikolamu sibitegeera birojiki bye mmadde mwe yabbaye sente zibanjibwa omuntu omugamba azisasudde.
nkimanyi naye Mr. D agamba kikikolebwa tubeera kampani eziwola tubeera nga abaawola omuntu ate we are not that company.
Tuyagala reversing transaction. Kati oyagala ddi reversing omala omusasula emitwalo 23. This is reverse. You will get a notification if you know the correct process of reversing. If you know the process of reversing. Customer refunded. Sorry. Okay. Go ahead. Take it.
Oba mulinda ki
Anti ayinza okujja nga tali mu mudu mulungi.
era ayinza baba
Asobola okudda nga reversing. Yakitegeera nkyogera nakikunyonyola. Ate omugamba reverse so that ayintera oteekamu ekituufu. Igookolereza. Agambye ekika. Neno yera ekika.
nze reversing back.
Nze ndowooza. If you're sure, proceed.
Nezammwe nazo reversing.
Then do it. Reversing ogikola mugeyi process eno gye twakola kuti. So reversing then okole ekituufu balance yadde ku zero. If you're sure it's what is done. So alternatively, when you're not doing it will depend on his mood at that time. When he's in good mood, okay, let's do that. If he's in bad mood, I can't take it. I can't look at me. Against the quick side.
Nze reversing ngaali ate nateeka ku lusingo lwa bwereere.
It's okay, muline muge twakolako akademi yokka. closing G7. Right. Here they were going to experience. Sorry. XP370. 370. Ate kati 370 pingira bakona. Tumate sawa kati ndi kusimu ne USB. It's just simple because I'm going to flash. No, yeah, it failed general knowledge. I call up on the jam then I go laptop. But then I call it a sim, then for your flash. Desktop. Right here. Control. Pretty. Great. Kimberly Jackson. Kimberly Jackson kubisa. Si kutuma nti okutuma mirimu. You disorganized. Just have some time alone. Tambula Mungu. Great. 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 Don't be there, don't see.
It's There's a message. Mr. Abdi, come with you.
Tugambye atwo tumuwandikire ate muvudde mukkiriza.
Requesting for the options. It's really full and very full. Baadaye fulani image. Usiweze kusema pia wewe. oba kyemprintinga kyekitayitamu. Print. I want to make more research now. That is. Means of what you bring here. Nasooka kuggyako katini guki.
Not at the moment. There's no money. Cosmos, what's the matter? This is a print. What's the matter? I don't understand as well. We are doing what? Where are we getting fish?
I said fits.
Papa's food is smelly so much.
Why don't you eat there?
Papa's food is it's terrible. Thank you. So 50 by